Senator Alma Francis Heiliger, you are recognized for your 4 minutes.
To the people of the territory, to the testifiers, I too would like to join my colleagues in support of this piece of legislation 35-0041 in reading all that I have read in regards to the bill and learning firsthand from some of the testifiers about this individual. I definitely have to sign on that he was very, very positive and right individual here in the territory. And sometimes even posthumously, we have to recognize when people have assisted our territory in moving forward in a positive way. So I will only just offer one question to the testifiers here, specifically his children. I'm sure those who have connected to him in a way that some of us might not have over the years who have known him personally. What is the one thing with those that are here, his children, you would say that you could say about your father that helped shape the course of your life today?
Hi, this is Juanita. One of the things I would say is his diligence, the diligence that my father had in him, I have in me. Not to give up on things in my life that I'm working on, and to continue to strive to do the best that I could do. And also, he really instilled in me to have Virgin Islands national pride. I mean, right. We see it all the time, but it's just learning your culture, just instilling it by having that role model there with you in the sporting industry, in the community aspect, in the leadership aspect. He really instilled in me to have that Virgin Islands national pride, and to always be proud of where I've come from, and where our family came from. And I just want to correct the record that I believe our grandfather, who was his father, left the Virgin Islands at a young age and went to New York. So he was here first, and they left and went to New York, and then they came back as kids. So he is a Virgin Islands, like my sister said, to the bone. So that's
good.
Sure.
And I would add that he was a humanitarian. He was always, and I feel like that was definitely passed along to me. And in my early life, I was a social worker, and I love to get involved in activities involving young people. I hope to be able to mentor more as my job starts to wind down a bit. And and he was big into family. He always wanted us to make sure that we knew our family from St. Croix, from New York, from LA, from throughout the Caribbean. So he was very, and he loved that. I loved listening to him talk about who this cousin was and who that cousin was, and so and so, and yeah.
Oh, good. I'm very happy to hear how not only respectful but joyfully you guys speak about your dad and the impact that he had on your lives, and clearly the impact he had on the people of this territory. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak, and I will definitely be supporting and voting in the affirmative on this piece of legislation.
Thank you so kindly, Senator Francis Heiliger. Next, Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. Senator Heiliger, you are recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the testifiers, to the people of the territory. As I sat here and really listened to everyone speaking, I was so impressed by all of the different lives and people from so many different walks of life that came here today to celebrate Miss Schuster. And it seems like she has instilled quite a bit in these individuals over the years. And you know, when you have people like that so dedicated to our people in our community, we definitely have to take the time out to celebrate them. So congratulations on your 40 years. And, you know, I hope that you are around and really assist and continue to assist with the community because you have definitely had an impact. Now, some of the questions I want to ask, first, Ms. Joseph Phipps, when I heard your testimony, you know, I stopped and I paused for a moment because you talked about a specific point about how Ms. Schuster was correcting you at the school that you were at. And the individual said, no, don't do that. She has a natural talent. And this is one of the things that inspired her to really move on and start her own school. But the thing with you and your testimony that I would like to expound on is I saw a lot of courage in that, not only from Ms. Schuster, but even from a student standpoint to say, you know what? Because most students, somebody correcting me and another adult steps in and says, don't do that. Why would you follow the one that's correcting you? A lot of children might not have even looked at it. What inspired you to really go and want to be Ms. Schuster's very first student?
When I was at the St. Croix School of the Arts, I trained in visual and performing arts, and ballet was my passion. And that came about through Charlita's teaching. I was exposed to all forms of dance, but ballet was just the thing that I wanted to do. And she was, in fact, that classical ballet dancer here on the island. And so I was determined to follow suit.
Good, good. I'm so happy to hear that. Mr. Jelani Ritter, you spoke with enthusiasm at the comfort that you got from Ms. Schuster being a young Virgin Islander relocating to the States and never ever feeling like you were shut out whenever you needed her and her recognizing your talents. How do you think that Ms. Schuster has the ability to really not only pinpoint people's talents, but even try to bring it out in them even more?
Well, first of all, Shalita is a parent, and I think parents sometimes make the best teachers because they can relate.
Time.
And that's something that she always done. She would always have the ability to relate. I could always relate to her, no matter the situation or the subject matter. I can call her and get some advice on whatever the case may be. So I think the nurturing part of her as a teacher came from, first of all, being a parent, and that's something that money can't buy.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I know my time has been called, and as I wrap up, I just want to say congratulations again, Ms. Schuster, and for all the dance moms and everyone that came to testify to really share with us the impact this woman has had on your lives. I want to thank you and thank her for what she's done for everyone there as well as the community. I will be voting in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
kindly,
you.
Senator.
You know, Senator Alma Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your 4 minutes.
Much. Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the testifiers, to the people of the territory. I definitely am in support of Bill 35-0101 in regards to taking this time to really honor Dr. Hendricks for all the work that he's done throughout the years. It's very heartwarming to sit here and listen to everyone talk about him, his life from a childhood's perspective all the way through adulthood, and even from being a parent and his son sitting here talking about all the good and wonderful things he's done and making him proud of knowing that that was his dad. Some of the things I want to speak on when it comes to mental health and mental wellness. Dr. Hendricks, what are some of the things over the years that you strongly advocate for when it comes to mental health and wellness in our territory? And where do you see us as a people where we need to go to really help those that are in need of mental health?
One of the things that I learned quickly about, as someone very closely associated to the fields of dealing with those people who are challenged psychologically, is that the big difference, but I knew this, and that's one of the reasons I went into psychiatry. The big difference to me is that we have such a strong, powerful relationship with our culture, with our environment, with our families, with our friends. And you just heard testimony along those lines, where here at the table are sitting 3 people who have been together, not 60, but closer to 70 or 72 years, because we graduated 60 years ago or more. So in terms of that structure that we have, where our environment, our customs, our behaviors, our likes and dislikes, I was fortunate enough to have gone through that myself, and I can use that. I use that to be a part of my approach to helping, to retrofitting some of these patients in the sense that, let's start with who you are. Let's start with what you know. Let's start with what you think are our strengths and our weaknesses. Let's start by talking about what are the things that mean most to you. And that, to me, was always the big difference. And let me give you an anecdote here quickly. When I was in St. Elizabeth's Hospital working back in the early 70s, there were approximately 30 patients from the Virgin Islands that had been at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, some of them from in the late 30s and others in the 40s and 50s. And I recognized 1 or 2 of them, and I noticed that all of them, I could say whatever I wanted to say. They all had one thing almost in common. There was this common thread of, if I brought something for them to eat, or do I know such and such a person? And so I said, you know, why is it that you all want to know who I know and what it is if I know you? And one of them very eloquently told me that if you know me, you know what happened to me. If you know my family, you know what happened to me. And I took that seriously, and I considered that to be one of the most powerful tools that I was given. Because I don't start about, are you hearing voices? I don't start with, can you sleep? Are you depressed? No. I start with that background, that most basic issue of how tightly related are you to your environment that you left when you left the Virgin Islands and never, ever saw again. And that to me was always the key to establishing a relationship with all my friends. Some of them were actually friends of my family, friends and patients that I started out with at St. Elizabeth's.
But thank you so much for sharing that with us, and it gives such a strong perspective for the type of doctor you have been over the years and how serious you took mental wellness. A former Congresswoman, how are you?
Time was called, but you can go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
No,
I
you
didn't
can go
care.
ahead and
I was
wrap up.
caught up listening to Dr. Hendricks.
I understand.
Well, thank you for indulging me so I can ask this last question. You talked about Dr. Hendricks from a childhood perspective and how close you were over the years. Do you think he's changed much?
No,
Okay.
he's still the same person he was in kindergarten.
That's good. Well, it's happy to see that friendships could last to the test of time. You know, some of us would meet people in our lifetime, they come and they go. But it's a beautiful thing when you could connect to other souls and they become a permanent part of who you are. So thank you for this opportunity to even witness this. And I will definitely be voting to support and honor this man for all that he's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heiliger. Next up.